The moment she said I was holding her back, something inside me didn't break. It went completely still. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just looked at her, trying to understand how the woman I built everything with had started seeing me as the weight she needed to escape. Her name was Sloane Harrington, and for years, she had been the most ambitious person I knew. We lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, in a house that still smelled like fresh paint from the renovations we could barely afford 3 years earlier. Back then, every dollar we earned had a purpose. Every late night meant something. Every sacrifice felt shared. But somewhere along the way, Sloane's ambition stopped including me. It started evolving into something sharper, something more individual. She wasn't just chasing success anymore. She was chasing distance. And I didn't realize it until that sentence came out of her mouth like it had been rehearsed. "You're holding me back." There was no anger in her voice. That was the part that hit the hardest. It sounded calm, decided, final. I asked her what she meant, even though I already knew. She walked toward the kitchen island, picked up her phone, and placed it down again like she was organizing her thoughts physically. "I have opportunities, Carter." Her tone shifted slightly when she said my name. Not cold, but detached. I can't keep choosing stability when I should be choosing growth. Stability. That was what I had become to her. Not a partner, not a husband, just a safe place she had outgrown. I nodded slowly, letting the words settle into something real, then moved forward without me. The sentence left my mouth before I had time to reconsider it. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't emotional. It was quiet, and that quietness confused her more than anything else. She expected resistance. She expected negotiation. Instead, she got permission, and permission made everything heavier. She stared at me like I had just rewritten the script she thought she was in control of. "You're serious?" I didn't respond immediately. I walked past her into my office and opened my laptop. Not to escape, not to avoid, but because something inside me had already shifted. If she was choosing a different life, I wasn't going to stand in the doorway asking her to stay. I logged into my banking account. Years of shared finances stared back at me. Joint savings, investment accounts, emergency funds. Every number carried history. Every dollar had a memory attached to it. And yet, in that moment, they felt strangely neutral, like they belonged to a chapter that had already ended. Behind me, I could hear her footsteps slow down near the office door. She didn't come in. She just stood there waiting to see what I would do next. "Before we go further, tell me honestly, if you were in Carter's position, would you fight to keep the relationship alive, or would you let it go the moment respect starts slipping?" I selected half of our liquid assets. Not out of revenge, not out of punishment, just clarity. What was mine was mine. What was hers was hers. No drama, no hidden moves, just separation. I initiated the transfer. The confirmation screen didn't feel dramatic. It didn't feel emotional. It just felt clean. And that scared her more than anything I could have said. "You're splitting everything?" Her voice finally carried something new. Uncertainty. I turned the screen slightly toward her. Fairly. That word landed differently. Because fairness meant there was no more negotiation. No more emotional leverage. No more shared future to protect. She stepped into the office slowly, like she was walking into a version of me she hadn't seen before. I didn't say I wanted to end things. I leaned back in my chair and met her eyes. "You said I was holding you back." She hesitated, because now she had to hear her own words outside of her own head. "I just meant I need more. And I'm not enough for that more." Silence filled the space between us. Not uncomfortable, not explosive, just honest. And honesty is harder to fight than anger. Her shoulders dropped slightly. That was the first crack, not in her confidence, but in her certainty, because what she wanted wasn't just growth. She wanted growth without consequence. And that version of reality doesn't exist. The next few days moved quietly. No shouting, no dramatic exits, just conversations that felt like negotiations between two people who used to share everything. We discussed the house. We discussed timelines. We discussed how to untangle a life that had been built deliberately. Every detail made it more real. And reality has weight. By the end of the week, Sloane started slowing down. Not physically, mentally. Her sentences became shorter. Her Her certainty became softer. One evening, she stood in the living room, looking around like she was seeing it for the first time. This was supposed to be temporary. I looked at her. What was this phase? She gestured around the house. Working this hard, living like this. It was supposed to lead to something bigger. I nodded. It did. She frowned slightly. What? Clarity. That word didn't comfort her. It unsettled her. Because clarity doesn't always give you what you want. Sometimes it shows you what you're losing. The midpoint came quietly. No dramatic event. Just a realization that shifted everything. Sloan received an offer from a firm in San Francisco, California. Higher salary. Faster growth. Exactly what she had been chasing. She sat at the dining table with the offer letter open. Reading it like it was a test, she wasn't sure she wanted to pass anymore. I didn't interrupt her. I didn't ask questions. Because this decision was hers now. Fully hers. She looked up at me after a long silence. If I take this, everything changes. I nodded. It already has. That was the moment the power dynamic shifted. Not because I took control, but because I stopped trying to hold on. And when one person lets go emotionally, the other is forced to confront what they actually wanted. Not what they thought they wanted, but what they're willing to live with. Before you decide what Sloan should do here, be honest with yourself. Would you choose growth if it meant losing the person who supported you when you had nothing? Or would you stay and risk resenting them later? She didn't answer immediately. She closed the laptop slowly. I thought you'd fight harder. I gave a small nod. I did, just not the way you expected. Her eyes softened for a second. Not enough to change the outcome, but enough to acknowledge something real. A few days later, she accepted the offer. Not impulsively, not emotionally, but deliberately. And I respected that. Because clarity, even when it hurts, is better than confusion that drags on. The day she packed her bags, the house felt different. Not empty, just quieter. She paused at the door, holding on to the moment longer than she probably intended to. I never meant to hurt you. I believed her. That was the complicated part. People don't always intend the damage they cause. But intention doesn't erase impact. I know. She nodded once, then walked out. No dramati gudvie. No last-minute reversal. Just a decision carried through. The weeks after were steady. Not easy, but steady. I focused on rebuilding my routines, reclaiming my time, understanding who I was without the version of me that existed in our relationship. Sloan called once about a month later. Not to come back, not to apologize, just to talk. Her voice sounded different. Not broken, but less certain. Things are fast here. I listened, didn't interrupt, didn't offer solutions. Because some journeys have to be experienced without interference. We spoke for a while. Then the conversation ended naturally. No promises, no expectations. Just two people acknowledging a shared past without trying to rewrite it. And that was enough. Because not every story needs a reunion to feel complete. Some stories end with understanding. And sometimes, that's the most honest ending you can have.